Hello, Paulette Bernard here from the 65th Force Support Squadron, and welcome to Lajes Now. We are coming to you from the Airmen and Family Readiness Center. And today we have two guests, Miss Melinda Bargery and Miss Sandy Moore, and you are the Community Support Coordinator. And we're here today to talk about a guest speaker who is going to be coming to the island May the 8th and 9th, and she's going to be talking about third culture. What in the world is third culture?
Well, our first culture is the culture that our parents had. So for most of us, that's the United States, unless your parents were from another culture. Our second culture is where we're living now. So for most of us, that's Portugal. And then our third culture is kind of taking pieces from all the places that we've lived, and that kind of becomes our new global culture. So for me, my family lives in California. I've lived in Turkey, and now I live here. So I would consider my third culture to be part American, part Portuguese, and part Turkish.
Part Turkish. Okay, so it's kind of an amalgamation of different cultures. So that's third culture. Miss Bargery, I know that this issue is something that's very near and dear to you.
It is.
And would you care to share with our audience some of your personal experiences and how you think it might relate to others?
Sure. Well, first of all, Chris and I are just so excited to have Janet Blomberg coming to Lajes. This is something that we have actually been talking about for the entire 2 years we've lived here, because we were so fortunate to see Janet speak at our son's college when we went to take him for his first year of college. Part of the orientation for students who were coming from overseas, and Jackson graduated from Ramstein High School. So part of the orientation process was to have this seminar for what she called third culture kids. And so honestly, we weren't even sure that we were going to go to the seminar. We weren't sure that we really fit into that category. We knew that, obviously international students would fit into that category, but we weren't sure that we really did. So we kind of went on a whim, and we were just blown away by all that Janet talked about in that seminar. And really, we haven't stopped talking about it since. Probably some of our friends probably roll their eyes when we say that, the third culture kid or the third culture adult, because they've heard us, talk about it so much. Basically, we sat there, and our adult daughter, she had just graduated from a 4-year university, and she was there with us. And we looked over at one point during the seminar, and tears were just rolling down her face. And by the time it was all over, we had all cried a little bit, because the things that she was saying were so, I think I would best describe it as it just gave a vocabulary for us, some concepts for us to capture some of the things that we had felt over the years about being global nomads. And some of the challenges that we had faced that we didn't really at that time link to that, but then we saw that so clearly. So it was just so exciting to us. It's really a fascinating subject, and I think it's more fascinating as time goes on. This concept of third culture kids is changing, because they're realizing it's not just third culture kids, it's third culture adults. It's so it applies to everybody on this base, in that we're all sort of living in a third culture as military people, as DOD's teachers, as local nationals who work with Americans on base. I mean, all those are, in a sense, the same concept of third culture.
Right, it's kind of a fusion, if you will, of cultures. I know oftentimes when I talk with military members and I say, "Where are you from?" I get this look like, my home of record is, or my parents live here, but there really isn't a home that some people can actually point to. And I think that's probably one of the issues that third culture kids, third culture adults are kind of faced with. Where is home?
Right, right.
And home isn't necessarily just a place.
It's true, and I think that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg. You're right. That is a way to capture that, to say where is home. You know, that's. But I think the things that she talked about in the seminar that we attended were just deeper, just different layers of that. Things that it just had, like I said, we had not really been able to put vocabulary to that. Or now we can talk about this in our home, and we understand ourselves so much better, why we make the choices we make based on these cultural, this cultural nomad concept, you know.
And I think, I know for me, it's always been a struggle to answer where I'm from. I mean, I grew up in the United States, but we lived in many different places. I find I would much rather talk about where I've been than where I'm from. For me, where I'm from is kind of an awkward question that the answer changes with my mood, I guess.
And I think a lot of people who live with the military lifestyle, who are, I like the term global nomads, who are accustomed to moving every 2 to 3 years, feel somewhat rootless sometimes, but that doesn't mean that they don't have attachments, you know, to a variety of different cultures, new friends, have the ability, I think, to make new friends quickly and to adjust quickly.
They do, and some of the more fascinating things that we found is that our kids find other global nomads. Right. You know, everywhere we go, they seem to link up with the kids, or and we do this too, you know, as adults. You link up with those people that understand you best, quite naturally, you know. So,
right.
So this is proven to be the case over and over again. And, you know, I know in this book, there's a book called Third Culture Kids. I think David Pollock wrote the book, and he also worked with Ms. Blomberg for a long time. And, he talks about this concept of getting a bunch of people in a room together who are these third culture people. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of like magic because they understand each other so well. Right. Whereas our kids, or when we go home to our hometown, we find that it's a little difficult sometimes for other people to understand where we've been and what we've been doing and who we are now, because it is different maybe from how we lived.
And because it does change us. So these are some of the issues then that Janet Blomberg is going to be discussing when she comes. Okay, that sounds like something that would be of wide interest, not only to parents, but to children as well, and then also adults and civilians, teachers, and of course our military members would all benefit from knowing a little bit more about ourselves. And I think you used a good expression of why do we make some of the decisions that we do, and it may be because of that global mobility that we are all accustomed to. Did you have something you'd like to add?
Well, I just wanted to mention that when we run into people that we've been stationed with before, sometimes it's kind of like, oh, I remember you were stationed there with me. Right. And the funny thing is we may not have been good friends at that time, but we share those common connections. And we find meaning in that. And
it's so true. I used to laugh and say that I always wanted to, if I had to go on a trip, I wanted to go on a military plane, because by the time I got to my destination, there was sort of a community that had formed out of these military, as crazy as it sounds.
We don't say goodbye. We say we'll see you in a future assignment.
Right.
You know, one of the things that I remember Janet talking about in our seminar was, just as an example of something very practical that she said, because these students were going to be freshmen in college, but she said, when you meet someone, don't tell them your whole life story in the first 5 minutes. And we all just kind of looked at each other because we do that, you know, because we are so intense about getting that, because to us, it's like, we've got to make this instant connection with you. Surely you want to hear our whole life story in the first 5 minutes.
That's absolutely
And so that
true.
was a very practical tip that we took away and thought, let's not scare people by telling them everything about us in the first few minutes. So anyway, it was just an excellent seminar. It was kind of life-changing for us, really. I would say that we all understood ourselves so much better, and so yeah, absolutely, everybody come out to see.
I so look forward to it. So tell us when and where.
On Thursday, May 8th, we have 2 sessions. We're specifically gearing them towards parents or teachers or people who work with kids, because the emphasis will be on talking about how to help kids make these transitions and how to help them make sense of the information. So the first session will start at 3 o'clock. It'll be about 2 hours long, so it'll end around 5. And then we will have a second one in the evening, starting at 6 o'clock and ending around 8 o'clock.
And that's at the community center.
At the community center. Then the next day on Friday, from 11 to 1, we have one that we're asking you to bring your lunch and come, and she will talk from 11 to 1 o'clock. And that one will really be geared towards adults who are single, or maybe they're married and don't have kids, people who the application to kids doesn't mean anything to them, right. And then we will have them go over at 2:30, right after school, to go ahead and speak with our middle school and our high school students. So ultimately though, I think there's something to benefit everyone, and if the only time you are available is one that has an emphasis that isn't as meaningful, I think we hope you'll come anyways. Yeah, there's a lot of common information.
Oh, absolutely,
and,
absolutely.
So we hope you'll take advantage of this opportunity.
Okay, all right. Well, I am really excited about this.
I am too. I am very excited.
And thank you for sharing your story and certainly your passion. And we do appreciate the effort that it's taken to bring this kind of information
we're just thrilled.
To our community. So that's a wrap for today. So as we like to say, ciao.
Ciao.
From Lajes Now.